According to a new hypothesis, the universe is quiet because it's a ghost town. There are no advanced alien civilizations because no matter how clever or complex they become, they always hit an existential speed bump, a universal limit, and implode, destroying themselves before they ever reach interstellar travel. If this theory is correct, then the vastness of space isn't empty because we're alone, it's empty because every advanced civilization has already burned itself out. Is humanity next? Let's find out.
The universe is a ghost town.
By all accounts, space should be teeming with life. Mathematically, humans should have had at least one alien voicemail by now.
And yet the cosmos remains eerily quiet. Do you know why? Because according to a new hypothesis, the universe is a ghost town. There are no advanced civilizations because all civilizations destroy themselves before reaching interstellar travel.
The idea is that no civilization anywhere has ever leapfrogged to another planet ever, because they always implode first, and humanity might be on its way to its own implosion. If Brazilian policy researcher Antonio Guedes Filho is correct, all advanced civilizations hit a kind of existential speed bump before they shoot themselves in the proverbial foot. It's less Star Trek and more dead end, no more frontier. Guedes Filho proposes that civilizations, no matter how clever, encounter a ceiling beyond which progress becomes functionally impossible. That limit, he claims, is well below the bar required for interstellar travel. It's called the universal limit.
So much for warp drives and galactic empires. If this guy is right, we are all destined to peak somewhere around expensive space stations and very grumpy rovers. But space travel to distant worlds? Not a chance. You might be wondering why such a ceiling exists. According to Guedes Filho, it's a cocktail of skyrocketing costs, diminishing innovation, and the crushing weight of societal complexity. It's not that aliens didn't build faster-than-light ships, it's that they burned out trying to fund the prototypes. And every time, the civilization crumbles instead of rocketing off to the stars.
His idea is that by the time a civilization nears the point of interstellar travel, they get hampered by politics and bureaucracy. And while that might be the case here on Earth, it's a little presumptuous to assume the folks of Omicron 7 have the same sort of constraints.
One of Guedes Filho's arguments is that modern science doesn't come cheap. Building the Large Hadron Collider costs nearly $5 billion. Keeping it running costs another billion per year. ITER's fusion reactor is already $20 billion and counting, with no working model yet. Guedes Filho argues that the cost of each scientific breakthrough now resembles the GDP of a small nation. And what do we get for our trouble? Tiny incremental advances, and no gravity drives, no teleportation, no interstellar colonization kits. He compares this to the golden age of science from 1830 to 1930, when there were huge leaps in biology, chemistry, physics. Things like evolution, thermodynamics, and electromagnetism became part of the human book of wisdom. By contrast, the last 100 years have been more bureaucratic. It's hard to change the world when you need to submit a 1,200-page grant proposal to do it, or when your advanced technology isn't profitable enough, so it never sees the light of day, halting scientific progress in the name of money.
But it's not just money, it's also entropy. Part of Guedes Filho's universal limit hypothesis draws on collapse theory. Basically, as societies become more advanced, they also become more fragile. More infrastructure means more points of failure. More energy consumption means more risk. One tsunami, one solar flare, one bad economic cycle, and the whole house of cards can fall.
If ancient Rome buckled under grain logistics and the Maya city-states fractured over drought and warfare, why should spacefaring civilizations be any different? Guedes Filho imagines alien worlds teetering under their own complexities, imploding just before they crack faster-than-light travel. They got close, maybe even launched a Voyager or two, but in the end, the cost of ambition was collapse. Of course, this is just a hypothesis, but it's another good explanation for why interstellar travel isn't more common. If there are supposedly advanced civilizations out there, you might be surprised to hear that Guedes Filho isn't even a physicist or an astrobiologist. He is a policy analyst. His theory draws more from historical analogies than scientific data, and a lot of experts aren't on board with his theory.
But in his defense, you might remember in a previous video I discussed the dark forest hypothesis by science fiction author Liu Cixin. If you haven't seen it, be sure to watch it after this one. It's a good theory, and Cixin isn't an astrobiologist either. Experts argue that civilizations may have limits, yes, but applying the limits of human civilizations of the past to all potential alien species? Hard to say. Surely not all civilizations burn themselves out before they reach new worlds, and humanity hasn't reached its peak yet, has it?
Let's hope not. Let's hope our satellites just haven't looked far enough yet. Maybe the galaxy is full of life, but like us, they're stuck on their home worlds, running simulations over and over about why no one answers the phone. Where are you, aliens?
If there are other civilizations out there, where would they be? Scientists are performing simulations to see where the most likely place for a galactic civilization is in the Milky Way. If humanity is on the verge of colonizing planets, inventing brain implants, and rebuilding ourselves, then surely some other galactic civilization beat us to it. Assuming, of course, that the universal limit theory isn't true and every advanced civilization didn't already destroy themselves.
The Milky Way is 13 billion years old. Somewhere out in that vastness, there must be someone. One possibility is that astronomers have been looking in the wrong direction. Not to worry, that's about to be fixed. Jason T. Wright and his team of simulation-wielding astrophysicists have figured out where the most likely place is for an alien civilization, and that has some serious implications for our future. Their model suggests that if you are going to look for ancient, galaxy-spanning civilizations, you shouldn't be scanning random stars scattered across the galactic disk. You should be aiming your telescope's dead center, to the core of the Milky Way. Why? Because it's crowded. That dense region at the heart of the galaxy is teeming with ancient stars and planets that formed earlier than most of our own solar system. More time means more opportunity for life to evolve, go spacefaring, and start colonizing. Wright's simulation also included something other models have ignored: stellar motion. Did you know that the galaxy churns like a cosmic whirlpool? Stars aren't physically fixed in place. They aren't like planets or moons rooted in orbit. They just sort of swirl around in the galaxy, something known as stellar motion.
A civilization launching spaceships would presumably chase the stellar motion of the stars closer and closer to the galactic core, and once colonization reached the core of the galaxy, where there are oodles and oodles of planets, it would explode. The entire core would become a hub of activity, with lots of planets being colonized.
Wright's simulation estimated a civilization could colonize all of the Milky Way in under 1 billion years. So where are they? The center of the galaxy doesn't just make sense as a colonization hub, it's also the best place to broadcast a message. Any message sent from the core has a decent probability of reaching any planet in the galaxy because of its central location. Researchers like Vishal Gajjar have even suggested that an advanced species might tap into the rotational energy of something truly unimaginable. Did you know that at the core of every galaxy is believed to be a supermassive black hole? It's true, even if no one knows why. Experts believe that a civilization that can travel the stars could also harness the power of the supermassive black hole at the core to power a sort of beacon, drawing less developed civilizations to it, essentially using a 4 million solar mass monster as a cosmic amplifier.
And us on Earth? Well, we have a direct line of sight to that region. Astronomers can scan the galactic center right now, and they have. And what did they find? Nothing. Maybe there was a galactic hegemony once, a vast empire like something out of Dune or Star Trek, but perhaps it burned itself out billions of years ago. Humans of Earth might be the only players left in the whole galaxy, which would make it our future to explore the core. Or perhaps there's another place humanity should search.
Globular clusters. While the galactic core might be prime extinct alien real estate, there's another promising venue known as globular clusters. These are ancient spherical swarms of stars orbiting the galaxy's outskirts, sort of like glittering satellites. Roughly 150 of these clusters exist in the Milky Way, each hosting up to 1 million tightly packed stars.
These clusters are interesting because their stars are so close together that interstellar travel could take years between them as opposed to millennia. Communication could be done in weeks instead of messages taking months or years.
It's like building your civilization inside a very exclusive gated community with 100,000 neighbors next door. If civilizations did advance, it was either in the core or in a cluster. Anywhere with lots of stars and planets in close proximity would have been ideal. But proximity sometimes has its drawbacks. Gravitational interference might rip planets apart or prevent them from forming at all. That's why researchers like R. Di Stefano developed the concept of the GC habitable zone, aka the Goldilocks zone. It's the sweet spot where stars are close enough for efficient travel, but not so close that they gravitationally nuke each other's solar systems. Even free-floating rogue planets ejected from their stars could potentially host civilizations, powered by ambient starlight and advanced solar technology. Theoretically, a nomadic alien city could be floating through the dark right now, heated by the collective glow from nearby stars. And just wait until I start crunching the numbers. The numbers game. Okay, but I'm not actually crunching the numbers. I'll leave that to the professionals. Di Stefano did the math, so I don't have to. He says that if just 10% of GC stars have planets, 1% of those have intelligent life, and 1% of those develop communication, there could be, at the bare minimum, one communicating civilization per cluster. In clusters, you've got 1,000 stars packed into a few light years. It's perfect for galactic networking, or at least interstellar speed dating. Unfortunately, humans have yet to find any exoplanets in globular clusters. It doesn't mean there aren't planets, it just means we haven't found them, probably due to technical limits. Dense clusters are hard to study, and the aliens haven't texted back yet.
In the end, advanced civilizations continue to elude us. As far as anyone can tell, humans are the smartest ones in the galaxy, and that means it'll be our job to send our people to distant clusters and to the heart of the galaxy itself. Do you think we're up to it? And now we're going to take it even further, but first I want to give a big thank you to Brea Little in Maine. Thanks so much for watching, and if you are new here, be sure to let me know where you are watching from in the comments.
This is humanity in 1,000 years. In the year 1025, Egypt was dealing with a slave revolt, a man named William the Fat almost became king of Italy, and Poland's King Boleslav the Brave ruled for 60 glorious days before being overthrown by the universally undefeated opponent, death.
A lot has changed between 1025 and now 2025. A lot. Too much to even start naming things. Fast forward 1,000 years and humanity is staring down the barrel of the year 3025. So what will change between now and then? Scientists have some fun predictions.
If you're imagining the Jetsons, you might be half right. We are looking at a high-tech, sleek, chrome-plated future where humanity gets more and more attractive and thinks like supercomputers. Turns out, the future of our species is equal parts attractive, weird, and slightly terrifying. It's a Black Mirror episode no one wants to see, but our descendants will probably experience.
I'll start with the basics. Height. Evolutionary geneticist Professor Mark Thomas suggests that humans might get shorter over the next millennium, which is weird because we've been getting taller for the last one.
Why would humans start to reverse course? I mean, besides the fact that we sit so much and our spines are all compressed. It's because shorter women often give birth earlier than taller women, and earlier reproduction can affect the genetic trajectory over generations. I know it seems silly today, but in 1,000 years, shorter women having quicker pregnancies will have a trickle-down effect of possibly creating shorter humans. There could also be a beauty boon. Since women statistically have greater choice in reproduction today, and because fewer people are interested in having children, Thomas predicts that more attractive men will be the ones passing on their genes. That means that future humans might be a bit less unibrow and a bit more chiseled jaw. So in 1,000 years, everyone might be only 5 feet tall, but also smoking hot. Doesn't seem like a terrible swap, does it? As for brains, Professor Robert Brooks says we might not need big ones. With AI handling the heavy lifting of thought, future humans might be cognitively off the hook. Domesticated animals like sheep, cows, and dogs have smaller brains than their wild ancestors because they haven't really had to think for themselves in a few thousand years. If we domesticate ourselves with technology, get ready for Homo sapiens light. In 1,000 years, everyone will be dumb, sexy, and short. And AI will know everything for us so that we don't have to waste our brains worrying about it. Thanks, AI. One more thing, the nanobot takeover. Your short, attractive, small-brain descendant may also be full of robots. In the future, tiny machines known as nanobots could swim through our bloodstream, enhancing everything from immunity to memory. And it isn't that far away from being a reality. The field of nanotech is called transhumanism, and it's essentially evolution with a motherboard. Once scientists augment biology with microchips, we won't be bound by natural limits. Need a healthier liver? No problem. There's a firmware update for that. In fact, Humans might not just use tech, we might become it. With AI catching up to our brain's processing power already, some predict that future humans could merge with machines entirely. You'd have Siri in your bloodstream. I hope she works well under pressure. Get it? Blood pressure. Our evolutionary steps. 10,000 years ago, humans evolved the ability to digest cow's milk. In just the last 150 years, humans added about 4 inches to our average height and 20 years to our average lifespan. These weren't slow, cosmic changes. They were rapid-fire evolution sparked by environment, diet, and science. So we're already taller and we live longer. And over the next couple centuries, scientists suspect we're going to get darker. As climate change ramps up UV radiation, darker skin may become an evolutionary advantage, helping future humans better tolerate the sun's intensifying rays. Meanwhile, the number of languages spoken on Earth is expected to shrink dramatically due to global technology and cultural convergence. Babel may have built the tower, but Google Translate might knock it down. In 1,000 years, there could be only a handful of languages left on Earth. How's 3035 sounding to you so far? Shorter, hotter, a little dumber, but boosted by nanobots, and everyone can understand each other. Sounds like a party, but we won't be around to see it. This is humanity in 1 million years. What happens if I crank the clock another 999,000 years? By that point, your great-great-great-whatever grandkids are less likely to be influencers and more likely to be post-human hybrids with detachable heads. Because while the next 1,000 years is a buffet of plausible weirdness, the next million is where speculation merges science fiction's most creative fever dream. The rules of biology start to bend, genetics gets hacked, evolution tags in AI, and the result is a species that might not even recognize us as the ones who started the party. The ghosts of evolution past. To forecast our million-year metamorphosis, scientists first rolled the tape backwards. 1 million years ago, Homo sapiens didn't even exist. Instead, Earth hosted a few different human species like Homo heidelbergensis, the charming midpoint between Homo erectus and the more muscular Neanderthals. These ancient humans were shorter, sturdier, and still figuring out fire. Compared to ours, their faces would have looked primitive and ape-like. Homo sapiens arrived about 300,000 years ago, but it took us until about 10,000 years ago to figure out agriculture, tombs, pyramids, written language, art, and all of those other awesome human traits. Next came civilizations, supermarkets, and insulin. In just the past 10,000 years, humans got fatter, taller, and significantly more diabetic. But we also got a whole lot better at cheating natural selection using medicine. Our survival stopped depending entirely on our genes, and that's when things started getting interesting. Looking to the future, you have to keep in mind how much of our modern longevity and health and beauty depend on technology. Shrink to survive. You already know that our genetics will probably make us shorter, but there's another reason people might shrink. Dr. Thomas Mayland, a senior lecturer in bioinformatics at Anglia Ruskin University, said that on an overcrowded planet with limited resources, smaller bodies might be the evolutionary jackpot. Less mass means less energy burned, and that means less food needed and less air hogged. If everyone were the size of an ant, Earth would be in swell shape, but we'd also be eaten by overzealous anteaters, so not sure if the trade-off is worth it. As we continue to pack into megacities like sardines, evolution may start favoring traits that help us survive in large social clusters, and that could mean any number of things. Back in the hunter-gatherer days, you had to remember maybe 20 people's names. Now you forget someone's name at work and you're that guy forever. Dr. Mayland suggests this could lead to genetic optimization of memory. So while we grow smaller to conserve energy, our brains may optimize to remember more stuff. Think about how much information you receive in an hour on the internet. Now think of how much information old Noah received in a whole month thousands of years ago sitting in the desert. He saw sand, camels, and his own 2 feet. Ancient human brains didn't need to memorize the sheer amount of information modern human brains absorb every hour of every day. It makes sense that over the next million years, our memories will get better. Remember when your MP3 player could hold 2 megabytes of music, and now your iPhone can hold every song ever sung? The same thing could happen to our brains, making us all megamind. We might be dumber and our brains smaller, but our memory would be great, and it would probably be on a nanochip. Designer babies. And now I come to the not-so-hypothetical age of artificial selection. We're kind of there already. Designer babies are already technically possible. Science is at the stage where you can design your own child by choosing certain genes over others. It's a hugely controversial topic, but it won't be forever. In the future, it might be considered negligent not to tweak your baby's genes for disease resistance. People will be able to design strong children who grow into adults who never get sick. They'll also be able to tweak their hair color, eye color, and everything in between. I don't know what the global beauty standards of 1,002,425 AD will be, but I'm fairly confident they'll be enforced by some sort of algorithm. People will design their children based on the latest trends. Things like visible implants might become fashion statements. Artificial eyes could detect frequencies that humans were never meant to see. Imagine having vision like the predator. Limbs might become regrowable like a salamander's tail. We might all be bionic. When Mars attacks, our genes, different gravity, different radiation, different air, there's no doubt that the environment will create completely different humans. Dare I say it, but humans left on Mars will become Martians, and probably very quickly, if they survive. They'll eventually be alien to the people of Earth. Lower gravity could mean longer limbs and weaker bones. Cold environments might favor stockier builds and even bring back insulating body hair. Martian humans might end up looking more like Neanderthals with spacesuits. Now there's a fun image. Of course, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen, but science does know that roughly 2 new mutations enter the human genome every year for every one of our 3.5 billion DNA base pairs. That is a staggering mutational rate. Over 1 million years, the math becomes exponential. With enough time and enough generations, humans will change a lot. One day, we will absolutely become unrecognizable. We might be small, efficient, cybernetic with hyper-diverse genomes, artificial organs, and designer faces chosen like menu items. We might evolve to thrive on Mars, or we might ditch biology entirely for something silicon-based and server-cooled. What do you think will become of the human race? Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Who will care about us? Will the future care about us? If you've been here before, you know I talk a lot about archaeology on Origins Explained. A question historians and researchers are asking is, will people of the future care about us? What will our great descendants think? If history has any predictive power at all, they probably won't know a lot, and if they do, they might not care that much. The origin of archaeology. Archaeology is kind of strange. It feels obvious and eternal to us because it's something we can all appreciate. It's the study of the past, bringing to life people and cultures long gone through what they left behind. But in the grand scheme of human civilization, archaeology is a very recent invention. Does it have a future? Outside of modern Western civilization, there is practically no record for the systematic study of ancient artifacts, meaning other than the Western nations that took an interest in archaeology during the era of colonialism, nobody else has really bothered with detailed history. All civilizations remember the past. They recite genealogies, preserve sacred texts, chant origin stories by firelight, you know what I mean. I'm not saying that people don't remember, but very few civilizations have bothered to dig up broken pots, map ruined temples, or dust off shattered amphorae just to learn how people used to live. The impulse to excavate and to interpret the material remnants of long-dead societies has emerged only twice before the modern era, and both times it sputtered out. Mesopotamian archaeology. The first archaeologists weren't Victorians in khaki shorts, they were Neo-Babylonian kings. In the 6th century BC, rulers like Nebuchadnezzar and Nabonidus became obsessed with reconstructing ancient temples. They didn't just build new stuff. They dug up old ruins, analyzed floor plans, cataloged bricks, and reused original materials to reassemble sanctuaries exactly as they had once been. In one of the most delightful ironies in academic history, their work included a museum. A princess priestess named Enigaldi curated a collection of antique artifacts near the reconstructed ziggurat of Ur in Iraq. Sir Leonard Woolley, The 20th century archaeologist who rediscovered the site even found museum labels written in cuneiform, saying things like, "For the marvel of beholders." It was real archaeology, and it was being done over 2,500 years ago. The Babylonians were intrigued by those mysterious people who came before them, just as we are intrigued by the Babylonians today. Then it vanished. The Persian Empire took over Mesopotamia, the temples stopped getting rebuilt, and the whole tradition of archaeology flatlined. It would appear next in China. The Song Dynasty. The second case comes from medieval China during the Song Dynasty. Song scholars revered ancient texts with unmatched zeal, and some went further than their peers. They collected and studied ancient bronze ritual vessels and stele inscriptions. They weren't digging trenches, but they were trying to reverse engineer ancient rites. Some emperors even commissioned replicas of the ceremonial bronzes, hoping to channel the spirit of dynasties past. But again, it was niche. Some scholars got in on the fun, and it looked like it might become an emerging field. And then the Mongols crashed the party by invading China, and the practice withered like a lotus flower without water. Li Ji was the man who introduced Western-style archaeology to China in the 20th century, picking up where those long-dead Song scholars left off. And while you may think that modern archaeology grew from these older examples, it didn't. Our modern tradition of digging up old bones began with the Renaissance obsession with Greece and Rome. Western scholars first fixated on ancient texts, then came the artifacts, and then the digs. The field of archaeology as it is today emerged only in the 1700s. Up until then, when people found ancient ruins, they usually picked them apart and used the stones to build other stuff. No one really cared that much about the past. So, will they care about the past in the future? You would think something as elegant and meaningful as archaeology would be too valuable to abandon, but civilizations have dropped more essential things for worse reasons. Take human sacrifice, for example. At one time, nearly every major civilization practiced it. Then, seemingly overnight, the practice ended. There was no global referendum, no alien intervention. Humanity just sort of changed. Then look at something like the Great Pyramid of Cholula in Mexico, larger by volume than anything built with industrial technology. Despite being vastly richer and more advanced than the ancients, modern Mexico has never bothered to match it. And the same could be said for Egypt and its pyramids. 4,500 years later, and they still haven't beat their original giant triangle. Why do we not build these types of monuments anymore? Because priorities change. Archaeology isn't essential like agriculture or plumbing. You could almost call archaeology spiritual in a way. People do it today because they believe in historical truth and in the empirical reconstruction of humanity's great story. But that belief isn't universal, and it doesn't last forever. Even now, archaeology only thrives where governments approve. When Big Daddy government says no, archaeology dies. The British Empire funded digs to glorify its prestige. Turkey backs the Göbekli Tepe project to boost tourism. But where archaeology threatens state ideology, whether it's the Taliban blowing up statues or laws limiting excavation, or countries in times of trouble, it becomes a lot less important. The living should take priority over the dead. Did you know that most modern excavations in North America are tiny, consisting usually of half a dozen grad students? Yet during the Great Depression, the US government mobilized hundreds of workers to dig mound builder sites across the South. Not because archaeology mattered more then than it does now, but because it fit the political moment. These digs created jobs, so they became the thing to do. Archaeology persists only when it's useful. When it's not, it fades, just like bronze chariot races and blood sacrifices. They used to be all the rage. Will the future discover us? Future generations will either dig into our past or completely ignore archaeology. I don't think there will be any middle ground. The problem is that time is ruthless. Future civilizations may remember the idea of archaeology, but that's not enough. They'll need the methods, the trowel work, the context recording, the material analysis, the detection. These are hard-earned skills, passed through generations. Alexander the Great wanted to rebuild Babylon's main temple. He had the money, he had the manpower. The project failed because he had no archaeologists. Even if a future civilization revives archaeology, by then most of our cities, monuments, and microplastics will be gone, possibly buried so deep that no one remembers to look. People tend to joke now about future archaeologists digging up our drive-thrus or treating our iPhones like sacred relics, but the real joke is that they probably won't even find them. If people forget to be archaeologists, an advanced human civilization in 2,000 years might not even care to look underground. They'll be on a screen or in a robot body living in virtual reality, I don't know. Unless people in the future value the past the way we do today, and unless they fund full-time specialists and focus on the tradition of knowledge, then the ruins will be lost. In the future, humanity could get to a point where it just doesn't care about the past. The pyramids of Giza could be bulldozed to make room for a spaceport. The Acropolis could end up as a basketball court. If public opinion changes, then all of human history could end up forgotten. Archaeology is a choice made by a specific kind of civilization with a specific kind of worldview. Ours happens to be one of them. But one day, sooner or later, someone will shut down the museums, close the dig sites, and file away the last research grant. Maybe humans will be too busy mining the moons of Jupiter. Maybe we'll have already learned everything and lost interest. Then, 1,000 years later, someone else might find a chipped fragment of our world, wonder what it meant, and start the whole thing over again. Civilization after civilization, picking up the pieces of the past, forgetting the past, and then relearning the past all over again. Existence is just one big circle that never ends. What are your thoughts on the future of the human race? Are we destined to become gray-skinned mutants at the core of the Milky Way, or are we doomed to the mistakes of our past? Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching! Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!